Welcome everybody. For today's presentation, I would like for you to all think of me as your coach. And my job as your coach is to make sure that you're ready and able to win. So I want you to think of yourselves as football players who are in training to play a game when knowing that you might be stuck on the bench. And for this game, you'll be hoping you're on the bench. But there is a prize to be won. So you might be asking yourself, why wouldn't I want to play in a game when I know that there's some big prize to win? So I'm going to tell you what the game is, my qualifications as your coach, why this should be important to you, how to train, and most importantly, what the prize is. Now, some of you may be familiar with the storm that happened just a few days ago at a tornado that hit northeast Georgia. And this tornado killed one person, and yet it left 51 people that were trapped, waiting for help. It was this type of situation that inspired me to become a prepper. For some of you who don't know what a prepper is, according to the website copingwiththetimes.com, a prepper is somebody who is preparing for any change in their circumstances. I like to think of it more like preparing for any type of emergency. So my qualifications as your coach is that I have done the research into how to handle emergencies. I have a playbook on what to do. I have a bug out bag, which is a container that holds enough supplies to sustain me for 72 hours in any emergency situation. And I have run some drills. Now, some of you out there might already be preppers, and for you, I would ask that you still stay and listen to the presentation and think of me more as a colleague. Because as a prepper yourself, you know that every prepper has a little different take on emergencies, and they've all been inspired differently for different reasons. For instance, my inspiration was Hurricane Sandy that hit the east coast of our country, and it killed 151 people. Now, what struck me more important was all the people that were survivors, and they were waiting and relying on the government to help them. And these emergency vehicles could not make it in because of all the debris. And then when they finally did make it in, they did not have enough supplies for these people. So you might say to yourself, well, hurricanes aren't going to happen to me here in Nebraska, which is true. But Nebraska is number 5 in the country for tornadoes, and we average about 50 tornadoes per year. So emergencies can happen at any time, and that's why it's important for everybody to be prepared. And that circumstances and the circumstance in Georgia are reasons that you cannot rely on the government or emergency help. You need to take care of this yourself. Now that I think we can all agree on that, some of you still might have some excuses. You might say, well, I don't have the time. And I think that's a poor excuse. If it's important to you, you can take the time. Even 15 minutes a week can make you closer to getting to the prize. Now others might say, well, I don't have the money. I'm on a very tight budget. And I think that's another poor excuse. And I'm going to use an example that all the charities use. The money that you spend on one latte, $5 or $7, skip that latte, buy a case of water, some protein bars, and you'll be closer to getting to the prize. So now that we know there's no valid excuses, some of you might want to know, how do I get started? Well, there's lots of resources on this subject. For instance, there's books like The Prepper's Pocket Guide by Bernie Carr, and it says the first thing you should do is declutter your house to make preparations. Other internet sites like RespondoZero.com suggests that you make a list of all the possible emergencies that can happen, and then you rate them in the most likely to happen, and then you work towards each one of those separately. PackAlert.com recommends that you just concentrate on 10 different items to have for each emergency. And these are basic ones like flashlight, water, food, fire. This kind of makes it simple. If you need a handout, I can give it to you after the presentation. There's also some internet radio shows called survivaltraining.com where you can listen to actual information on the subject while you do other stuff on the computer. There is actual survival camp training here in Nebraska and you can get that information from outdoors401.com, where you can be professionally trained here in Nebraska on how to handle emergencies. And of course there's the show Doomsday's Preppers on National Geographic Channel that will give you some ideas too. So now that you're starting to gather your research and stuff, I recommend you create your own playbook, whether it be this in a notebook or on the computer. If you do it on the computer, print it out though, because you might not have access to your computer later. And then you should run some drills, just like you did in school. Tornado drills, fire drills, you need to do that at your house too. So now that you know what you need to do, you're still wondering what that prize is. Well, actually, there's two different prizes. If you're lucky enough never to be put into an emergency situation, you will have peace of mind, knowing that you have prepared. If you are thrown into an emergency situation, your prize will be your survival, the survival of your loved one. What could be a better prize than that? Nothing. So in conclusion, I'd like to say that the game is survival. And as your coach, hopefully I prepared you and at least inspired you to know that emergencies can happen anytime. You cannot rely on the government. And so you should start now, do your research, create your playbook, run your drills. And I would like to share one of my favorite quotes by a football player, famous football coach, Vince Lombardi. And it says, "The spirit, the will to win, and the will to excel are important qualities that will endure. These are more important than actual events itself." So no, go out there and prepare to win.
Thanks.